Hey guys, welcome back for another video. Today we are taking a look at Talon Ptera 3-80 ball. This was graciously and generously sent to me by NNC Reviews. Feel free to check him out if you are a fan of Beyblade or Sonic the Hedgehog in general. He's got two channels, so I will link to his stuff down below. But Talon Ptera, this is based off of the Viper Tail blade. Very similar shape. This one, the blade's a little bit more muted in terms of the contact points, little softer lines. Does look very cool. I'm a sucker for dinosaurs, so very hyped for this one. But today we're going to take a look at it, and I'm going to let you guys know whether or not I think this is worth getting and what I think it is good on. So again, this is based off of the Viper Tail blade. You can sort of see a lot of the similarities in the shaping of the blade itself. Like I said, it is a little bit more muted. The angles are a little bit softer, contact points are a little bit softer, so I don't think it's going to be as effective for the attack builds that I'm typically used to using on Viper Tail. It is supposed to be like a stamina type, but it's too recoily for that. So I do still think that it's going to prefer aggressive bits. As always, take the Takara Tomy typing for these releases with a grain of salt. Just because they label something as good at one thing doesn't always necessarily mean it's great at that thing. Sometimes it's better at something else. In this case, in Viper Tail's case, I think it's better for attack builds. The ball bit, obviously, great bit to have. Definitely want to have that. 380, it's a decent ratchet. I generally prefer the 60 height ratchets, but 380 is definitely usable if you're trying to go for a taller height build. The overall balance for Talon Ptera is pretty good. So let's go ahead and test it out in its stock form against Scythe on 360 ball, and then we'll try a couple combos and see sort of how I think you could potentially optimize it for something a little bit better. So, like I said, I think the Talon Ptera blade is just a little too recoily to use as sort of a pure stamina blade. It's not going to outspin most of the higher stamina blades, the good ones, things like Scythe. It's going to struggle with to outspin it, which is why I think it's going to benefit from some more aggressive bits. It does still have some pretty decent contact points, and because the blades sort of hang lower, I think it's kind of good for upper attack and potentially ratchet attack, having an easier time making contact with ratchets in order to get those bursts. One of the builds that I really like for Viper Tail is 560 Rush, and I think that combo translates well to Talon Ptera. I don't know that it's as good as Viper Tail on this build, but it does pretty good. I do think that you could swap out Rush for Taper if you have that as well. I think that's also a potentially good pick, but Rush and Taper, in my opinion, are probably the better bits for Talon Ptera. In terms of the ratchet, 560 is a bit heavier. You could try 360 as well. 460, possibly there is a bit of a gap between the blade and the ratchet, so that's a little bit riskier. I would say 360, 560 on Rush or Taper is probably going to be optimal for Talon Ptera. In terms of matchups, I think it will do okay against Scythe and things like Helm Knight. I think it's probably going to do best attack versus attack, which we will test out here in a minute. But I think it does okay all the way around. Again, don't think it's going to be top tier or anything like that, but I definitely do think it's usable if you want to try out sort of a rogue pick, or you just really like the blade. So moving on to an attack build, we've got Phoenix on 960 point. So if you're in North America, at the time of making this video, point is not out yet. With the release of the Transformer Beyblades, the middle of this month, July, point will be released on one of those, and then Leon Claw, or Claw Leon as it's going to be known in North America, will be released in Wave 2 of Beyblade X as well. But this is definitely, this Phoenix build is very common competitively, has been for quite a while in Japan, so it's a good sort of matchup to test sort of how it will do sort of attack versus attack. Overall, I do think the blade is decent. Again, I don't think it's going to be top tier. I think the biggest issue is that it's just sort of a more muted version of Viper Tail. It's not, doesn't quite have as good a recoil as Viper. It's okay, it's definitely usable, but I think Viper is the better option. If you really like the blade, the good news is that I do think that it's usable, especially attack versus attack, and it definitely has a potential to win against some of the more common stamina builds, especially with what is available in Wave 1 of Beyblade X, so at least for Hasbro. So if you like it, I would definitely say, you know, you can build some pretty decent combos with it. It's definitely cool looking. I'm interested to know everybody else's thoughts on this blade. Again, I think it's pretty cool. I really like the sort of dinosaur motif. I'm not going to complain about getting more of those. So I like the design. I like the aesthetic of it, and I think that it is overall pretty decent for what it is. If I had to rank the blade, it would probably be somewhere at the lower B tier or C tier. Not to say that it's bottom tier, but it's definitely going to require a little more skill, I think, to use it effectively. I don't think it's going to be one of those things that you can just launch in and expect to win consistently. I definitely think it's going to take some strategy and some work, but I am interested to know what everybody else is running it on. If you have picked this up already, let me know what combos that you are favoring for this blade. Again, I think I'm really leaning towards 560, 360, rush, or taper, but I am interested to know what everybody else is using. So let me know down in the comments. Hit the like for the algorithm, subscribe if you haven't already for future Beyblade content, and I will see you all in the next one.